I'm in the social sector for like 15 years, but my training is in accounting and finance. I used to be an accountant. My first degree is in accounting. And then after I got my accounting qualification and became a certified accountant, I decided that I want to shift field from the business sector to the social sector. And so I joined a big charity in Hong Kong. It's called the Community Chest. If you're local, you know the Community Chest is the biggest fundraiser in Hong Kong. But I'm not doing fundraising. I'm responsible for fund allocation, grant making. So the Community Chest did fundraising every year, but they won't use the donation itself. It will distribute the donations to the local charities. So my department, every year, I will receive like 300 proposals from all the charities, from all the NGOs in Hong Kong, and then we will do the vetting exercise. And of course, I'm not the one to decide what project to fund. We have a committee. So my department, my unit, is actually to review all the proposals, and then we'll prepare the bidding papers for the committee member, and the committee members will decide what projects they would support every year. And of course, 15 years ago, we won't talk about social enterprise or social entrepreneurship. So what we do in Community Chest is about traditional charity. We support NGOs to do social projects. And then over the years, I became very interested in the social sector. And subsequently, I returned to the university and pursued a master's degree and then a PhD degree. And along the way, I did work for some NGOs and foundations. I did consultancy work for foundations. And increasingly in the social sector, they began to talk about they don't like the old model of philanthropy. And they have terms like high impact philanthropy, like a venture philanthropy. And in the case of venture philanthropy, actually they want to borrow the model of venture capital in the business sector or finance sector to apply to the philanthropy charity sector. And so increasingly they talk about when some NGOs make some proposals, they would ask questions, what is your impact? And what is your sustainability model? And at the same time, people began to talk about why don't we create some kind of new organizations that could address both social objectives and also economic objectives. And that's actually what became a big trend, a big movement in the development of social enterprise and social entrepreneurship. Okay, so right now I do work for CUHK, I do work for Hong Kong U, and then I'm associated with an organization called Social Ventures Hong Kong, which is actually an organization I helped establish, and it is an organization trying to promote venture philanthropy. So we pull some money from some donors, and then we will actively looking for projects to support. We see ourselves as an investor, not donor. And some of our investees include some famous organizations like the Dialogue in the Dark. I don't know if you know about Dialogue in the Dark. It is a social enterprise. And we are one of the founding investor. And then another example is the Diamond Cab. It's a taxi for wheelchair users. Okay, it's like the London Cab, but in Hong Kong we don't have the taxi for wheelchair users in the past. And I will also talk about the Diamond Cab case in the talk, in the workshop. And as I mentioned, my interest is in philanthropy and civil society. Okay, I think even though the focus of this workshop is on social enterprise, I think all these things are really related. We are interested in lots of social issues, but when we try to think about social issues from a social entrepreneurial perspective, we are not using the old method to try to address the social issues. We want to find new methods, social innovations, and very often we try to find market solutions to solve many social problems. Okay, I will get into the details of all this point later on. So, when you enroll in this lecture or this workshop, what is your expectation about this lecture? It's about, I think the title is about social issues, right? Social issues. So actually, I don't prefer to it's like very old school. I say there are 10 social issues in Hong Kong, and then you think about how to solve these social issues. No, I won't do that, because that's a very important reason for that. Because when we talk about social entrepreneurship, we talk about there are certain people called the social entrepreneurs who try to solve certain issues. And the social entrepreneurs is not like the public officials or some social workers. I have high respect for social workers, but the social workers, they're not social entrepreneurs. Okay? For social entrepreneurs, there is a reason for them to try to solve a social issue. The reason might be very personal. Okay, I talk about the case of Diamond Cap, okay, set up by Social Ventures Hong Kong. The founder of Diamond Cap is a friend of mine, and she used to be a TV journalist. She worked for cable TV. And then why she quit her career in journalism and then started to work initially with Social Ventures Hong Kong, and then she decided to set up the Diamond Cap. She really wanted to do something to change the situation that many wheelchair users in Hong Kong are not having the right kind of transportation that they could use that are convenient to them. The founder of Diamond Cap is called Doris, and actually her mother had a car accident that before the accident her mother was really active, but after the accident her mother became a wheelchair user, and then she really think that in Hong Kong, even though we are a very modern city, prosperous city, but for the middle class people, if you are a wheelchair user, it's really difficult for you to get around the city. Of course, we have other transportation. We have bus, and you can actually use some bus lines, even if you are wheelchair users. But in the case of Diamond Cap, Doris really think that she wanted to do something, to try to help the situation. So she picked this particular issue because of her personal connection to this social issue. And my first message that I want to give to you today is that of course we'll talk about some social issues later on, maybe not Hong Kong, we'll talk about some social issues, say in the UK, which would be applicable to Hong Kong as well. But my first message to you is that even though you are joining a competition, you may not be a social entrepreneur in the future. But what I think the whole competition is to try to let you think about if you want to become a social entrepreneur, right? So my message is, think about something that you really want to change. It may be a big thing, it may be smaller things. It's fine. Okay? So my lecture is not about giving you a long list of social issues and go over them one by one. I'm not expert in social issues. Okay, even though because of my involvement in the social sector, I do know something about various social issues in Hong Kong and around the world. Okay, and so if I'm not trying to talk about a long list of social issues, what I want to do is actually to give you some perspectives to think about. If I am to or if you are to try to use a social entrepreneurial approach to solve social problem, what does it mean? Okay, so it will be different from you are a social worker trying to solve social problem, or you are a public policy maker trying to solve social problem. It should be different, right? So my lecture is mainly about trying to give you the social entrepreneurial perspective. So the first part of the discussion will be some very basic thing. Even though I know many of them might already familiar with some basic concepts, but I still want to emphasize some I think important points that relate to the definition and the concepts. But this part will be very short. It won't be long because I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about definition. Okay, and then I would raise the proposition that many of you, I would say, in this competition, you're not going to prepare a business plan. So what, in essence, what you are trying to do is to actually to come up with a way to try to blend social issues or social needs with certain market opportunities. That's what you need to do in thinking about your project, about your business plan. Even though I'm not going to teach you or try to let you know how to write a business plan, but these are some of the things you need to think through before you start think about your business plan, start draft your business plan. So I'll use different perspectives, and they're very, very simple. And I'll give you a lot of local examples to help you think through this process. Okay? So this is the second part. And the third part, I will give you some, I'll show you two videos because I don't want to talk too much. So two videos. And if this is more basic theoretical stuff, this would be something that I think are more advanced in relation to how we think about the market. So we will talk about a term called collaborative consumption. And it is about if we want to create new markets, or if we want to transform market, there might be some alternatives that we could do. And then there is a movement right now that they try to persuade people ownership is not all we want to do in relation to trying to promote consumption. Can we do share ownership? And then we do collaborative consumption? Things like that. So this is new stuff. And then the other topic that I have a lot of interest is about the BOP market. Do you know what's the BOP market? BOP means base of the pyramid, or bottom of the pyramid. If you think about the economic pyramid, we, 2 years ago, or last year, we had the Occupy Wall Street and Occupy Central protests. And the slogan is what? We are the 99%, and we are against the top 1%, right? And there's a movement that talk about how could we serve the bottom of the pyramid? Okay, the 2.3 billion poor people in the developing countries. They are the economic subject at the bottom of the pyramid or base of the pyramid. So there are lots of discussion about how to really serve the BOP people through social entrepreneurship and through the forces of the market. So these are new perspectives that I want to give you, so that we could spare some, some discussion and some thinking. Okay, then I will spare some time because it's a 3-hour workshop. Then maybe it would be good for the final section to give some time to you to talk about what social issues that would be your interest, and then we could share and maybe we can apply some of the concepts and theories in the workshop and apply them to think about the social issues, social problem that you want to address. Okay, so this is the outline. Okay, some concepts and some keywords, actually, some fundamental concepts when we talk about social entrepreneurship. We always talk about social innovation. Not too many people talk about social transformation. In this lecture, I want to emphasize more on social transformation. And then many people talk about social entrepreneurship, though it means many different things to different people. I want to ask, what are their relationships? I assume you somehow know something about this term. You somehow know something about this term. So in social innovation, we try to come up with new idea to solve problem, right? So innovation could be product innovation and process innovation. Okay, so I have a definition for social entrepreneurship here. It is the most simple definition I can find on social entrepreneurship. So social entrepreneurship is a process involving the innovative use and combination of resources to pursue opportunities to catalyze social change or to address social needs. I like this definition because it uses a process approach. It uses a process approach. We see social entrepreneurship is a process. And then it talks about the innovative use and combination of resources. And this these terms relate to the idea of creative destruction. When we talk about social entrepreneurship, we always refer to Joseph Schumpeter, the economist. Schumpeter is the father of the study of entrepreneurship in the business school. And so what Schumpeter is talking about is that what the entrepreneur do is they see a new pattern to do economic activities. And then they come up with some ideas to create a new pattern. And the new pattern would totally transform the old pattern of service delivery. And this is the process of creative destruction. We want to destroy the old way of doing things by coming up with new ideas. So the idea of social innovation relates to this term, innovative use and combination of resources. And then the social innovation, or the new way of combining resources, is to pursue opportunities. And what are the opportunities? It relates to social transformation. It relates to social transformation. So very often, it is because of certain social transformation that lead to the emergence of some opportunities. And the social entrepreneurs are the people who are very sensible to social transformation. They see certain changes in the society. And then they witness the social transformation, and they think the changes in the society is not good, and they want to change it. So they come up with some social innovation. And so a social entrepreneur will combine his insight on social transformation. He sees not as a threat, but as an opportunity. And then he or she try to come up with certain social innovations And then he put this thing into a process, and this is the act of social entrepreneurship, to try to change the society, try to change the world. So when I talk to, yeah.
Oh, so because this is such a new kind of venue for charity, like this is kind of a new issue. Is there any examples to date of a very large-scale, successful example of social entrepreneurship?
Yes, all through the world there are lots of examples. When I talk, I like to use a local example to talk about social entrepreneurship. One of the most successful social enterprises in Hong Kong is called the Senior Citizen Home Safety Association, called SSIR. And its service is very simple. They have something called a personal emergency link. It's an emergency, it's a device that could be installed at the home of the single elderly household. So actually in 1 year, in around 2005, I guess, maybe earlier, 2002, in a winter, we had a sudden cold spell, very, very cold during that winter. And for that season, within 100 days, we have more than 100-something elderly. Those elderly living alone in the community, they die because no one knows that they need emergency help during the cold spell. And so this is a tragedy to a place like Hong Kong, right? So, so later on, some people come together and they establish the social enterprise, the Senior Citizen Home Safety Association. And this technology is very simple. It's just they have to maintain a call center. Okay, it's not groundbreaking technology. Call center and technology exists for a long time. So the elderly people can install the device at their home. So if they have emergency need, they just push a button, and then they will get connected to the call center. And then the call center will help arrange the emergency support to the elderly. It's so very simple, right? So if I use this framework to think about the situation, you think about the social transformation in Hong Kong. And it's like many urban cities around the world. So we have an aging population, and the new generation, like myself, in the Chinese society, we used to live with our parents in the past. But increasingly, in the big cities, the young couples won't live with their parents. And we have more elderly living alone in the community, more than ever. So this is a social transformation. And because of the aging society, we have more and more and more elderly living alone in the society. Okay? So it is not like we don't have services for elderly. We have very good social services for the elderly. But those services, we have two main types of services for elderly. One is community-based. One is institutional-based. Institutional-based is like we have elderly home, nursing home, and then the community-based is various services we provide to those elderly living in the community, right? But the community services we provide for the elderly, in the past, they couldn't address the emergency needs of the elderly. Community services for elderly, right now in Hong Kong, is like they have the daycare center for the elderly. So daytime, the elderly can go to a center and do something. They might have meal service. They might have home help service. So there was some helper delivering meals to the elderly. But how about emergency needs of the elderly? Nothing. Before the creation of SSIR, of the PE link, Personal Emergency Link Service. So when I write about this case, I will say, there's actually a social transformation happening in Hong Kong. That existing services provided by the NGOs, the charities, they couldn't address the emergency needs of the elderly. So this is a typical case of social transformation. And some people recognize these things. And actually, if you talk to the social workers that do elderly services, they all know about this thing.
How does it sustain itself?
Let me finish this and then I can talk about scale up. So when I talk about social entrepreneurship, the first thing is social transformation, and that's why I want to emphasize social transformation at the very beginning, at the first line. And then then the next point, on the next very important element in social entrepreneurship is what I call the innovative combination of resources. So in the case of Shasha, they use a very simple technology, and what they do is they do not build their emergency unit or something. They just connect the elderly with the existing emergency support services, the ambulance, the police, and the very fact they have the call system is a way to connect all the elderly. Okay, it is a way to combine resources. And right now, Shasha is the main activity or main service of Shasha. Actually, is no longer emergency support. Actually, once they build the network, they provide lots of services to the elderly through the network. They will have volunteer calling the elderly people, maybe once a week, and then to just have a chat with the elderly. Okay, so once they create the network, it became a very useful platform for them to try to combine various resources. We have lots of community resources that want to help the elderly. Okay, so this is the second element. And then the third element is about how to sustain itself. And right now, Shasha had a net profit, net income of over 20 million every year. They need to pay a monthly fee for using the, because you need to purchase a device, the elderly, and then you need to pay a monthly fee. And for the poor elderly, the security payment recipient, we call it CSSA recipient, those would be funded by government. The government acts, so it is not a subsidy from government. Government pledge to buy this service for those elderly. So maybe 40% of the elderly are being paid, being funded by public money, government. But this is a case of, this is not a charity. They still face the market. And actually they have competition for the commercial sector as well. Because all along there are this kind of service in the commercial sector as well. But they do not target the mass or the people in the low income group. Okay, so the scale mechanism is because of the call center, it is really easy to scale up. And initially, in the first 5 years, they did not register enough users, so they sustained losses for the initial years. But then once they reach a threshold, reach a tipping point, then they became very successful social enterprises. And they're registered as a non-profit company, so they won't distribute any income to shareholders because they don't have shareholders. And all the income will be used to provide other elderly services or to support more elderly to use their services. Okay. Any more questions you want to follow up with this case? So again, instead of telling you we have what social problems or what social issues in Hong Kong, I want to tell you, you need to try to see from your own eyes what are the social transformations that are happening. I give you one more example. 10 years ago, very few people in Hong Kong would talk about the food waste problem. Food waste. Right now we talk about we have the landfill, garbage field, and this nearly full. And 40% of the garbage we throw to the landfill are actually food. So food waste is a problem. Okay? And right now, lots of people are talking about food waste issue, lots of books, lots of organizations. So one factor that we began to talk about the food waste issues is increased awareness. And then we have NGOs and we mainly have NGOs to try to solve the food waste problem. It's difficult to use a social enterprise approach to solve the food waste problem. But the government is saying that they would like to have to levy a charge for disposing solid waste in the near future. So every household, if we want to throw away rubbish, we might need to pay. So it might trigger many organizations, many individuals, many entrepreneurs to think about, can we create some businesses to try to solve the food waste problem? Yes.
So at present there is no fee charge?
No, nothing. Hong Kong, nothing in Hong Kong. You just throw away everything.
So the government is in a sense blocking social innovation in many different ways. Then if nothing is charged at present, then nothing can really, there's no.
They're going to this discussion in Hong Kong. They may levy a charge for disposing solid waste. Right now, only if you dispose the big items, furniture or electrical appliances, you need to pay. If just household garbage, you don't need to pay. Okay. So this is another social transformation, food waste issue. And because of various factors, increased awareness, and there may be government policy, it could open up a market. We don't have a market before, but it may become a viable market very soon. And then people could come up with social innovation to try to, if you really want to solve the food waste problem, okay, then you might be able to come up with some innovation. And if you put it into work, and then set up an enterprise and really successful in your venture, then you are doing social entrepreneurship. So this is the diagram I took from an article. It tried to distinguish between various kinds of social engagement. If you are using if you're a social worker, you try to use traditional way to do services. It is like social service provision. And then there are other people who try to promote, social activism. Okay, they protest and they do advocacy. Okay, this is another way. But for social entrepreneurship, it is about trying to think of some social innovation to address the social transformation. And very often, we will use market forces. We will use market forces. And I would, whenever I try to analyze some social enterprises, we'll say, is it a good social enterprise or is it not so good? Or if I have a chance to review your business plan, say for example, I will try to see what are you talking about. What sort of thing are you trying to address? Are your plan related to some social transformation, or maybe some long existing issues that we don't know how to address? Okay, and then I will try to see. Have you managed to combine different resources, old resources, new resources? Okay, and I think this is very, very important. We always talk about there are many assets in the community, the hidden assets, that if you could mobilize those assets, you could do a service at a very low cost. You don't need to pay for all the input. Okay, you mobilize the volunteers. You mobilize some existing resources that have low utilization, okay? And then I'll try to see if do you have a model to scale up your operation. And when I will show you some examples, and actually we can use these criteria to evaluate those examples. Instead of trying to list the social issues in Hong Kong, I found another article that talk about social issues in the UK. So I just copied those social issues here. And many of them will be equally applicable to Hong Kong and I think many other places around the world as well. So of course we have the aging population problem. Okay. So aging or elderly services, it encompasses a lot of things, a lot of issues, okay? And the emergency link service is one of them. And then we need to think about housing, urban design, etc. And then in the UK and also in Europe, they have lots more and more immigrants, and so they need to think about new ways of providing a lot of basic services like schooling, training, housing. And then we also have, rising incidence of chronic illnesses. And then there are certain illnesses that relate to the kind of urban lifestyles, like depression, okay, and diabetes. So I won't go into detail of all these things. I just want you to think about, give you some examples of the social issues. And then there are behavioral problems that result from affluence. Hong Kong is a very wealthy city, even though we have a high income gap. But we have problems that came along after we achieved economic success. Hong Kong is not so severe, but in the case of the US, there's a severe problem of obesity, and then addiction to alcohol, drugs, gambling, and all these issues relate to urban living, wealthy cities. And I want to skip the next 2 points. And then there's a mismatch between growing GDP and stagnating happiness. So we always talk about we have GDP growth, but we are not happy. I don't know how to address it. But it's very true, okay? And then we have issues like climate change or environmental issues, which we all think about in your business plan. So I don't want to discuss all these issues. It is your role to think about certain social issues you want to address as a change maker, as the social entrepreneur. But in the last section of this workshop, we could discuss about what are the potential social issues that you could work on, okay, in small group. So in Hong Kong, I won't talk about the social issues now. And I'll go to the theme of this lecture to help you to get an understanding of social issues through social entrepreneurial perspectives. So you need to write a business plan, and I think most of you, if not all, will try to use a market mechanism to solve certain social problems. Okay, so to me, your task is very simple. You try to combine or try to blend the social needs with market opportunities. If you just want to address the social issues, you might be doing charity, or you are doing public policy. You want to do a social enterprise, social entrepreneurship, you want to use the market forces, market mechanisms. So the most single important thing you need to think about is how could I combine the social issues with the market opportunities? And obviously, it's not easy. It is not easy. It's easy to set up a charity. It's easy to set up a business. But it's more difficult to do a social enterprise because you need to combine these two things. And I want to give you several perspectives to think about how to combine the social issues with the market. The first perspective is very simple economics. Okay, demand versus supply. And then the second perspective, I will talk about 4 types of market relations that a potential social enterprise could establish with the market. And the third perspective, I will talk about production versus consumption. So if you are doing a business enterprise or you are engaged in a business venture, in the economic activity, economic system, you will have a production element and you will have a consumption element. You need to produce something and you need to find someone to consume your service or products. So you can think about the two components separately and then try to combine the two. And these three perspectives are interrelated. The first perspective very simple, and then second more difficult, the third more difficult, so you could gradually build up your knowledge on this topic. Oh, the first perspective. When I first did research for social enterprise, it is like 2004. A foundation asked me to can I do a very simple survey to see what kinds of commercialized activities are being undertaken by NGOs in Hong Kong. So I tried to survey the NGOs in Hong Kong. Many of them already engage in commercialized activities. It's like if you go to Tsim Sha Tsui, you see the YMCA hotel. So YMCA is an NGO, and then they run a hotel. So broadly speaking, you could say the hotel operation is a social enterprise. Okay, very broadly speaking. Of course, you can challenge that idea. And so when I review all the commercialized activities of the NGOs, the income-generating activities of the NGO, I try to categorize them. And they could fall into two main categories. And I call the first category supply-driven, and the second category demand-driven. In those NGOs or social enterprise, they adopt a supply-driven strategy. What they do is they have certain hidden assets, or they have certain clients they want to serve. It's like for some rehabilitation agencies, they serve the mentally handicapped people. So to them, they are the asset of the organization. The handicapped people, they don't see them as service recipients. They could provide services to other people. So this is a way of thinking about they want to supply something, to some potential markets, potential customers. And so those are supply-driven organizations. And for the demand-driven, it is the opposite. They try to find a hidden market to serve. And if it is easier if I talk about the examples. So I'll give you 6 examples here. The first 3 examples are supply-driven. And the next 3 examples are demand-driven. The first one is a quite famous social enterprise. It's called the Fuller Salon. And they hire the ex-prisoners, the young ex-prisoners, as trainee. Okay, so it is a typical case of supply-driven social enterprise because they want to utilize the skills of the young, or actually they want to train up the skills of the young prisoners. Okay, and so you can do a salon, or you can do a garage, a car repairing, you can do a car repairing operation and train up the kids to do car repairing, and you can do other things. You can do a 7-Eleven also, and then hire some underprivileged people to run a 7-Eleven. Okay, so this is the supply-driven. Another case is also quite famous in Hong Kong. It's called L+H Community Interest Company. L+H means love plus hope. Love plus hope. And what they do is there are a few business persons. They are from the manufacturing sector. And when they think about their charity and their services to the community, they think that since we are coming from the manufacturing sector, can we offer some opportunities that could hire some people in Hong Kong and in the manufacturing industry? So in Hong Kong, we used to be a manufacturing hub in the 70s, and we hire a lot of young women, doing knitting work. We used to export a lot of clothing around the world, And then subsequently, in the 80s, all the factory moved to China. But those young ladies doing the knitting work in the 70s, they were still in Hong Kong. They're still in Hong Kong. Many of them, they have the skills. So HKSEC, they say, can we establish a factory in Hong Kong? It seems like crazy because right now all the factories are in China. But they say, they go to Twin Moon. The factory is in Twin Moon. They say, we want to establish the factory. And the question is, how can they sell their products if their cost is much, much high compared to China? So actually they talk to the overseas market, the big brand name. And right now, what they're trying to do, they're not competing with the factories in China. They're competing with the manufacturing operations in Italy. So they are doing really, really high-end, high-quality knitting work, and they talk to the big brand names and ask them if we manufacturing do the clothing in Hong Kong, would you place some order with us? They talk to like Polo, all the big brand names. They have different I don't know what they call. They have different product lines. Some of the product lines, they could manufacturing those products in China. But for the top-end product line, they won't manufacturing those products in China. They manufacture those things maybe in Italy. And then the Hong Kong, the founder of the social enterprise, they talk to those people. If we set up a factory, would you place some order with our factory? We would use high-quality, high-end manufacturing process. And they got the orders. So they set up this factory in Twin Moon. And you might say this is just typical factory, knitting factory. So why is it a social enterprise? They hired the middle-aged women. They had the skills to do those things. And they also want to revive the label made in Hong Kong. Because right now everything is made in China. But in the past, we used to have a very good tradition in Hong Kong that we produce lots of good things. So these founders, they really try to revive those good old things. So this is another case of supply-driven strategy. Okay, they want to provide employment. Okay, in Hong Kong. This is another case called the Venture in Development, and the company name is called SOK. The founder of this organization is two young ladies, one from Hong Kong called Marie, one from Taiwan called Carol. And Marie and Carol went to Harvard and studied a master's degree in development. And they learned about social entrepreneurship. And so Marie and Carol, after they finished the master project, a master program, actually they're like you guys. They enter into a business plan competition, and they won the competition. And so the thing they said is when they study social entrepreneurship in Harvard, they learn a lot. They learn many cases of social entrepreneurship in South Asia, like in India, in Bangladesh. But they say there's no cases in China that I can talk about social entrepreneurship cases in China. So they say we need to go to China and try to set up a social enterprise. Okay, so what they do? So Marie and Carol, they talk to some donors. They already won the business plan competition, so they already had some money. And then they talk to some donors, and they went to China and just try to see what are the opportunities. So they go to Tibet, and what they see is this animal. It's called yak. Okay, it's called yak. So in Tibet and in the Qinghai in the region, the most important assets of those families, of those people, are the yak. So if you use a supply-driven strategies in social enterprise, you try to survey the community what are the hidden assets, what are the resources that we could utilize, and then to try to apply some innovation and then make it a viable product or service, and then try to sell to some markets, right? So they found the yak, and what do you do with the yak? You don't want to kill them, right? They're very important for those people. And they see, you can have the yak milk. Then you can make cheese. And then they have, the yak fabric, the fur. And they took the fur to some lab to test it, and they're really good quality. It's like cashmere. And so they set up two companies. One is the cheese company, the other is SSIR. And SSIR is now selling their products in the Western market, also at a very high cost. But the point I want to make is simple, very simple. It's a supply-driven strategy. It's a supply-driven. You try to find the local asset, the community asset, and then you try to find a market to match them. You try to find a market to match them. The first one is simple. Salon is everywhere. You can find a local market. The second one, they need to find an overseas export market first, and then they set up the factory. The third one, what Marie and Carol are doing is they need to sell this thing. They can't sell this thing in the local community. They need to sell this thing. They sell this thing to New York, to Hong Kong, or to big cities in China like Shanghai, Beijing. Okay, so these are three examples of supply-driven strategy, very simple. And then demand-driven. Demand-driven, this is the diamond cap case I talked earlier. So in this case, the founder, Doris, she really wants to serve a community need about transportation for disabled, transportation for wheelchair users, right? So it is not a supply-driven strategy, but a demand-driven strategy. Okay, so right now we have other kinds of transportation, like we have bus. But when you think about the market, the potential market, there's a broken area in the market, in the surface position. If you're very rich, actually you can buy your own vehicle. But those vehicles are not well utilized. Very often they just sit there, okay, in the parking lot. And then we have services for the low-income people. We have the rehab bus in Hong Kong. But those rehab bus is not very convenient to use. The bus line are fixed, and very difficult for many people to use the rehab bus service. And because Hong Kong is an affluent city, there are many middle-class people. Why don't we activate a market and serve those middle-class people? And this is exactly the founder of Diamond Cap is trying to do. Okay, we have many middle-class people. It is not cheap. It's quite expensive. But if we have actually, I also involved in the discussion of the project when during the conceptualization phase. So they talk about two options. One is really to do a public taxi service, but it will be very difficult because you need to talk to government and got the taxi license. Taxi license is really, really expensive in Hong Kong. Then there's another model that eventually we didn't choose. The other model is like, can we purchase one vehicle, and then it would be a will be shared by a small community. It's like there's the rich people, they will share their jet plane. There are some rich people, they will share jet plane. And of course, we're not talking about the ultra rich here. Say for housing estate, like Tai Fu Shing or like South Horizons, there are enough middle class people in housing estate. If we could pool like 20 households, 30 households, it might be enough for them to own one vehicle, and then they can share the vehicle for the small community. And it is a private vehicle. We don't need to have a license, a taxi license or something. So these are various kinds of model. This model, if we could implement, is actually an example of collaborative consumption that I also want to talk about later on in this lecture. But the challenge is to think about a viable way to activate the market. We know the demands are present. We just don't know how to activate the market. Right? So this is very important. When we talk about design, or when we talk about technology, this year's theme of the Hong Kong SEC is technology, right? Design is not just about design the product, it's also design for the market. How could you design for the market? The wheelchair taxi is very easy to find if you have the money. Right now they have 5 taxis, so very small scale. They already secure funding to add 3 more taxis. So next year we will have 8 taxis in Hong Kong, 8 wheelchair taxis in Hong Kong. Another case of a demand-driven strategies is the postnatal childcare services. But this case is actually you can also use a supply-driven angle to think about it. But I choose to talk about it using the demand-driven strategy. So in Hong Kong, we have many young couples. Increasingly, we have both parents will be working, and because the young couples, many of them don't choose to live with their parents, so increasingly we need to find people to help, to provide the postnatal services. Many households would hire the Filipino maids, but some people would say that they don't want to have a Filipino maids to help rear the child. So in this case, this is a social transformation in Hong Kong, and then we need the service for the young couples. So in this case, in this sense, this is a demand-driven case. But this case actually they combine both supply and demand. All cases you need to combine supply and demand. In this case, we also have after 1998, we have high unemployment problem in Hong Kong, and many organizations try to find employment opportunities for the middle-aged women. So this is the way to provide employment for the middle-aged women. So this is case you can both look at it from the supply-driven angle and the demand-driven angle. And the last case is the SSIR, Senior Citizen Safety Association. So this is cases, it's a typical demand-driven. I talk about we have the elderly people living alone in the community. They have emergency need, and we need to solve this social issue. So we come up with the PE lane. The PE lane. So it's very simple. Simple. I think I always talk about simple, right? So we have 6 cases, 3 supply-driven, 3 demand-driven. But this is exactly what I saw when I do the initial research on Hong Kong social enterprises. And then the second perspective. They're related to the first perspective. They're not mutually exclusive. So after I did the survey of all the social enterprises, I try to make sense of the relation between the business model and the market. So many of the social enterprises, they actually work in the existing market. If you set up you open a salon, it's basically like many of the salons you can find in the cities. If you set up a convenience store and hire disadvantaged people to run the store, it is still a social enterprise. But for the customer, you go to 7-Eleven. Every single 7-Eleven is just the same, right? You go to PolyU, you have is it 7-Eleven or is it a Circle K? PolyU has a 7-Eleven. It is a social enterprise. It's run by NGO. They hire disadvantaged people to run the 7-Eleven at PolyU. But for this social enterprise, they just work in the existing market. They just work in the existing market. And then the second category is some social enterprise. They will try to create a new space in the existing market. They will try to modify the service a little bit to add some service content. One example would be like many restaurants. Many NGOs run social enterprise restaurants in Hong Kong. And then there's a vegetarian restaurant in Wan Chai. It's quite famous, a social enterprise. They will hire hearing impaired people to run the restaurant, and then they serve vegetarian wheat meal, and then the customer will pay by the weight of the food they take. Okay, they use various modification to add social meaning to an existing business model. So they try to train a little bit, and that's also a strategy of the social enterprise or the NGO to try to attract the socially conscious customer to use their service. So that's little different. You might say this very, very similar, but I just try to make a small distinction between the first and the second. And the third one is very important. I'm very interested in the third one. The term here is called shun market. I don't know if you know about this term. It is like an unactivated market. It is a market that could be viable, but somehow no one tried to explore that market, and thus the market did not exist before some social entrepreneur activated it. And a typical example, or a classic example, is the microfinance. You know about microcredit, microfinance. So very famous like in Bangladesh, in India. So in the past, no one would try to do banking service to the poor. No one would try to lend money to the poor. No commercialized bank would try to lend money to the poor, for the simple assumption that the poor people cannot repay their loan. Okay, and then the very famous professor, Mohammed Yunus, who won a Nobel Prize, he's the founder of Grameen Bank. He challenged the assumption: poor people actually, we could borrow money to the poor people, and they will repay, and you can make a margin doing the operation. And he proved it is successful. Right now, Grameen Bank, it's a very big operation. They all venture into other countries. So when you think about social entrepreneurship and social enterprise, it is more easy for you to work in the existing market, right? But it would be more challenging if you could somehow activate a market. So microfinance is a case. And I would say the personal emergency link service is also a case of shun market. Once you activated the market, actually you can sustain. Of course, you need to scale up. You need to meet, you need to come across the certain threshold before you can be financially sustainable. And later on, when I show you one of the videos, it is also talking about the shun market. I talk about the bottom of the pyramid market. So we want to serve the poor people. Okay, one way is to use a supply-driven angle, supply-driven perspective, and try to hire the poor people, getting involved in some production. But can we use a demand-driven perspective to help the poor? The basic assumption is that they won't have the purchasing power to buy anything other than basic food. But is this true? We can do microfinance to them. Can we do something else? So I think this is very challenging. And actually, when we had local debate about promoting social enterprise, we always had a debate about, you set up a social enterprise at a restaurant. That's quite good. But actually, you might displace an existing enterprise. You create free employment, and then you deplete because of your new salon. There might be one salon closed down. So you create 5 employment with your new salon, and then you might destroy 4 employment. Then what's the meaning of doing that social enterprise if your purpose is to create employment? Okay, so it would be more interesting and more challenging if you could create a new market. Create a new market. Of course, it is very, very difficult. And the last one, if we say the third one is really, really difficult, and how about the fourth one? Can we transform the market? There are people I'm also involved in some volunteer work for fair trade organization. When we try to promote fair trade, we want to transform the existing way the economy operates, the trade system operates. And then when we try to promote green energy, you want to transform the existing way the market economy operates. Okay, so these are very good perspectives for you to think about your business plan. So this is the second perspective I offer to you. The third perspective, the third perspective is about further analyzing the business operation through the lens of consumption and production. So for all social enterprise, we want to attain double bottom line. We want to achieve social objective and economic objective. Then I draw a very simple diagram. It's a 2x2 matrix, very simple, okay? I ask the question, if there's a business operation, they will have the production rim, and there will be the consumption rim. I run a diamond cap. I need to think about the production, and then I need to think about the market, the consumption. And for social enterprise, we want to achieve economic objectives and also social objectives. Then we can ask the question, what is the locus of value creation? What's the locus of value creation? We want to create social value, and we want to create economic value, right? We can create social value in the production rim. If we hire the disadvantaged people, we create value in the social value in the production rim. We could create social value in the consumption rim. We provide the diamond cap service to the wheelchair users. When the wheelchair users manage to find a diamond cap, they get social value because it would be very convenient for them to have the diamond cap service. So you can think about social value could be created in the production rim or the consumption rim, right? Similarly, you can create economic value in the production rim or in the consumption rim. How could you create economic value in the production rim? If I want to sell something to the poor people, I would try to cut the cost, right? If I want to promote, some time ago there's a project called One Laptop for a Child. So some professor at MIT, he want to invent a very cheap laptop computer, $100 per computer. So he need to invent the computer, and if he after he invented the computer, he would likely find a factory in China or factory in India and manufacture it at a very, very low cost, so that he could sell those computers to the poor people. And in that sense, he would try to create economic value through mass production, through economies of scale. So you can create economic value through production. And of course, you can create economic value through consumption. You sell your product to the Western market and earn the income, and you create economic value through consumption. So you care about this point, the 2x2 matrix? So is that? So I try to make this distinction. And for all the social enterprises, we could find a combination from this in this 2x2 matrix. So what are the possibilities for quadrant 1, Q1? It is for what? For you achieve economic value in the production process. Okay, so it's cost minimization, full mass production. For quadrant 2, you produce social value and reduce social harm in the production. And then quadrant 3, Q3, is revenue generation, but no social value creation. So if you run the YMCA hotel in Tsim Sha Tsui, the main purpose is to got you the economic value. It's not about producing social value. Well, you run an ordinary hotel, right? And then for Q4, you are providing the social good to the target users. So what are the common strategies of the social enterprises? If you want to serve the bottom of the pyramid market, serve the poor people, you will likely combine number 1 and number 4. You try to sell something to the poor that are useful for them, but you can't charge them a lot. You need to make the product or the service really affordable to them. So you try to minimize the cost. So you will combine 1 and 4 if you try to serve the BOP market. And then for the what we call work integration social enterprise, many social enterprises were created in Hong Kong and also in say in Europe. Many social enterprises are created for providing employment opportunities for certain groups. So we call them work integration social enterprise, or WISE, W-I-S-E. So normally for work integration social enterprise, like the Fuller Salon, they create social value in the production. They hire the expressionists, young expressionists as a trainee in the salon. So you create social value in the production. And then for the consumption, the people who go to the salon and do the haircut, it's just normal economic activities. So you won't say that extra social value created in the consumption process. So you have 2 and 3. And then if you just run a social enterprise by combining 1 and 3, so it's all economic value, 1 and 3. It's just a pure income strategy. It's like the YMCA, they run the hotel. It's just for them to generate income. Of course, once they got the revenue, they would do social services. But that's another story. That's another story. So returning to the theme of the discussion, how could we blend social needs with market opportunities? These are the different possibilities. And can we use the example to think about this model? Diamond cap. What would be the combination for diamond cap? For production, which one? Diamond cap. I think for diamond cap, they will try to minimize the operation costs. And I think it is number 1. Okay? It's like running a taxi service, ordinary taxi service, right? But for diamond cap, it's 3 or 4? 4. So diamond cap is a combination of 1 and 4. Okay? How about the PE link service? provided by Shasha, the Personal Emergency Lane Service. It's 1-4 or 2-4. I think it's 2-4 because actually Shasha also do a lot of good things in the production process. If you had a chance to visit the call center, actually they hire a lot of middle-aged ladies who would be the phone operator. And actually, if they those middle-aged ladies, if they don't do the work for the call center, they might be a cleaning lady receiving the minimum wage payment. And those middle-aged women serving at the call center, actually they're doing a terrific job. I couldn't do as good as them. They would talk to elderly, and sometimes they talk to elderly using local dialects, and they're very patient in talking to the elderly. And so they also create social value in the production process. Yeah.
Can we combine 3 and 4? Like as you mentioned, the diamond cap, you mentioned that it charged really high price, and it can also address the needs of the disabled. Can we combine 3 or 4 together?
Yes, but you need to combine, say for example, 1 and 3 plus 4. Of course, because you still need to think about the production process, right? When we combine 3 and 4, it's normally what we call a cost subsidization scheme. Some social enterprise will serve 2 different clientele, or 2 different types of customers. There's a very famous eye hospital in India called the Aravind Eye Hospital, and they do cataract eye surgery for Indian people. And actually, they will charge those patients, they can pay, and then they would subsidize the poor people in the villages for the cataract surgeries. So it is a cost subsidization. And because it's cost subsidization, for those fee-paying customers, it is number 3. But for the poor people being subsidized, they're number 4. So it is possible to combine 3 and 4. It is a very common model for many social enterprises. Yeah.
I want to ask for 3 and 4, is there a very clear boundary between them? Because when even the normal people, when they consume the goods, they also have social value. Like when they buy the food, they can get the social value.
Of course, it's not clear cut. It is not clear cut. But it is good to think about cost subsidization is a common strategy used by many NGOs, used by many social enterprises. So it is a good point that the gentleman raised about can we combine 3 and 4. Of course, you can combine 3 and 4.
If there was a corporates that only focus on 1 and 3, but after they earn the money, they focus more on 4.
The question is whether it is an integrated operation, or it's like the traditional charity. You run a company, you earn the profit, and then you make donation. Then it is not a social enterprise, right? It is just the traditional way of doing business, or doing CSR, or doing charity.
He made use of his resource to help, like make use of his advantage in his sector and help his advantage.
Oh, this just the answer is yes or no, yes and no. It depends on what you try to make sense of that kind of operation. But for our purpose, we want to see all these things integrated into one single business model, because we want to create a venture called the social enterprise. Okay, so we want to combine them all together. If there's something that are only remotely linked to the corporation, we should not combine them together. Okay, so this, I asked, we have 6 cases. So for fooders, we are combining, 2 and 3. In the production realm, we hire the young people. In consumption, it's nothing special. For HKSEC, what is HKSEC? It's also 2 and 3. It's also 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. And then the yak cheese operation is also 2 and 3. They serve the Tibetan families, and they just sell the stuff to the mainstream market. So you see, this is very common for 2 and 3 coming together. Mm-hmm. And then the diamond cap, we discussed already, 1 and 4. The postnatal service is quite good, 2 and 4. If I can find examples of social enterprises that we could find 2 and 4, I think that's quite good, because we create social values in both the production process and the consumption process, right? And the PE link is also 2 and 4. So when you think about your social issue and your business plan, you should think about this. You are to run a business venture, business operation. You have the production process to think about, and then you have the consumption process to think about. I always like to see social enterprises that could, manage to achieve 2 and 4. I think it would be a very convincing case to the judges if you manage to come up with a really viable business plan that could combine 2 and 4. Okay? So the third part of the discussion is to further probe into the discussion, further think about production and consumption. If production and consumption are the 2 areas, we want to find some, want to introduce some social innovations. So what are the possibilities for you to introduce social innovation in the production process and the consumption process? Okay, so I want to show you 2 videos. The first video is about some new thinking in relation to consumption. In relation to consumption. The speaker will talk about a new concept. It's called collaborative consumption. And in collaborative consumption, there are 3 generic systems, 3 kinds of systems. The first system is product service system. It's like the diamond cap sharing scheme. If we had a vehicle shared by many different people, it is a product sharing scheme. Okay? The second model is redistribution market. We try to, to redistribute many goods and services, and so that we could save a lot of environmental resources in producing goods and services. And the third one is called collaborative lifestyles. And this is also about sharing. All these things are about sharing. That's why it is called collaborative consumption. And I choose to show you this video because when I talk about, there are 4 types of markets. How could we transform the existing market? It's very difficult. But the video talks about, in the past, we always emphasize on ownership. We want to own a lot of things. But if we give up the idea of ownership and start thinking about sharing, actually you could create some new markets. And those new markets could be equally applicable to the rich people, middle class people, and even the poor people. Right now, the most successful case of commercialized services to the poor people is mobile phone. Many poor people in the rural villages, they would use mobile phone now. But won't you think it is a luxury for the poor people to use mobile phone? Why do they need to use a mobile phone? Many of the farmers, actually, they need to know the market price of their produce. If they got a mobile phone, they can talk to some people and know the market price. And when they know the market price, they will know for what price they sell their produce to the middleman. And actually, mobile phone is a way for them to enhance their productivity. Okay? But mobile phone, the poor people could not own the mobile phone in the rural community because it's still too expensive for them. So what happened? There are some local entrepreneurs. They call it the cell phone entrepreneur. So each village, there might be 1 or 2 cell phone entrepreneurs. And usually it's a lady. The phone lady actually would rent the phone. You have a scheme how many minutes you can use every month, right? You share the minutes to all the other people. And it is a case of collaborative consumption that help the poor because they can't own the cell phone themselves. So this is one example of collaborative consumption that can help the poor. Okay, I will show you the video now. Do you want to take a break first? Let's watch this video, and then we take a break. And then we'll talk about the next video, okay?
So today I'm going to talk to you about the rise of collaborative consumption. I'm going to explain what it is and try and convince you in just 15 minutes that this isn't a flimsy idea or a short-term trend, but a powerful cultural and economic force reinventing not just what we consume, but how we consume. Now I'm going to start with a deceptively simple example. Hands up, how many of you have books, CDs, DVDs or videos lying around your house that you probably won't use again, but you can't quite bring yourself to throw away? Can't see all the hands, but it looks like all of you, right? On our shelves at home, we have a box set of the DVD series 24, season 6 to be precise. I think it was bought for us around 3 years ago for a Christmas present. Now, my husband Chris and I love this show. But let's face it, when you've watched it once, maybe or twice, you don't really want to watch it again because you know how Jack Bauer is going to defeat the terrorists. So there it sits on our shelves, whoops, obsolete to us, but with immediate latent value to someone else. Now before we go on, I have a confession to make. I lived in New York for 10 years, and I am a big fan of Sex and the City. Now I'd love to watch the first movie again as sort of a warm-up to the sequel coming out next week. So how easily could I swap our unwanted copy of 24 for a wanted copy of Sex and the City? Now you may have noticed there's a new sector emerging called swap trading. Now the easiest analogy for swap trading is like an online dating service for all your unwanted media. What it does is use the internet to create an infinite marketplace to match person A's haves with person C's wants, whatever they may be. The other week, I went on one of these sites, appropriately called Swaptree, and there were over 59,300 items that I could instantly swap for my copy of 24. Lo and behold, there in Resda, California was Rondaron, who wanted to swap his or her like-new copy of Sex and the City for my copy of 24. So in other words, what's happening here is that Swaptree solves my carrying company's sugar rush problem, a problem the economists call the coincidence of wants, in approximately 60 seconds. What's even more amazing is that it will print out a postage label on the spot because it knows the weight of the item. Now there are layers of technical wonder behind sites such as Swaptree, but that's not my interest, and nor is swap trading per se. My passion, and what I've spent the last few years dedicated to researching, are the collaborative behaviors and trust mechanics inherent in these systems. When you think about it, it would have seemed like a crazy idea even a few years ago that I would swap my stuff with a total stranger whose real name I didn't know and without any money changing hands. Yet 99% of trades on SwapTree happen successfully, and the 1% that receive a negative rating is for relatively minor reasons like the item didn't arrive on time. So what's happening here? An extremely powerful dynamic that has huge commercial and cultural implications is at play. Namely, that technology is enabling trust between strangers. We now live in a global village where we can mimic the ties that used to happen face to face, but on a scale and in ways that have never been possible before. So what's actually happening is that social networks and real-time technologies are taking us back. We're bartering, trading, swapping, sharing, but they're being reinvented into dynamic and appealing forms. What I find fascinating is that we've actually wired our world to share, whether that's our neighborhood, our school, our office, or our Facebook network. And that's creating an economy of what's mine is yours. From the mighty ePay, the grandfather of exchange marketplaces, to car-sharing companies such as GoGet, where you pay a monthly fee to rent cars by the hour, to social lending platforms such as Zopa, that will take anyone in this audience with $100 to lend and match them with a borrower anywhere in the world. We're sharing and collaborating again in ways that I believe are more hip than hippie. I call this groundswell collaborative consumption. Now, before I dig into the different systems of collaborative consumption, I'd like to try and answer the question that every author rightfully gets asked, which is, where did this idea come from? Now, I'd like to say I woke up one morning and said, I'm going to write about collaborative consumption. But actually, it was a complicated web of seemingly disconnected ideas. Over the next minute, you're going to see a bit like a conceptual fireworks display of all the dots that went on in my head. The first thing I began to notice how many big concepts were emerging, from the wisdom of crowds to smart mobs, around how ridiculously easy it is to form groups for a purpose. And linked to this crowd mania were examples all around the world, from the election of a president to the infamous Wikipedia and everything in between, on what the power of numbers could achieve. Now, you know when you learn a new word and then you start to see that word everywhere? That's what happened to me when I noticed that we are moving from passive consumers to creators to highly enabled collaborators. What's happening is the internet is removing the middleman so that anyone from a t-shirt designer to a knitter can make a living selling peer-to-peer. And the ubiquitous force of this peer-to-peer revolution means that sharing is happening at phenomenal rates. I mean, it's amazing to think that in every single minute of this speech, 25 hours of YouTube video will be loaded. Now, what I find fascinating about these examples is how they're actually tapping in to our primate instincts. I mean, we're monkeys, and we're born and bred to share and cooperate. And we were doing so for thousands of years, whether it's when we hunted in packs or farmed in cooperatives, before this big system called hyperconsumption came along, and we built these fences and created our own little fiefdoms. But things are changing, and one of the reasons why are the digital natives, or Gen Y. They're growing up sharing files, video games, knowledge. It's second nature to them. So we, the millennials, I am just a millennial, are like foot soldiers, moving us from a culture of me to a culture of we. The reason why it's happening so fast is because of mobile collaboration. We now live in a connected age where we can locate anyone, anytime, in real time, from a small device in our hands. All of this was going through my head towards the end of 2008, when, of course, the great financial crash happened. Thomas Friedman is one of my favorite New York Times columnists, and he poignantly commented that 2008 was when we hit a wall, when Mother Nature and the market both said, no more. Now, we rationally know that an economy built on hyperconsumption is a Ponzi scheme. It's a house of cards yet it's hard for us to individually know what to do. So all of this is a lot of twittering, right? Well, it was a lot of noise and complexity in my head until actually I realized it was happening because of 4 key drivers. 1, a renewed belief in the importance of community and a very redefinition of what friend and neighbor really means. A torrent of peer-to-peer social networks and real-time technologies fundamentally changing the way we behave. 3, pressing unresolved environmental concerns. And 4, a global recession that has fundamentally shocked consumer behaviors. These 4 drivers are fusing together and creating the big shift away from the 20th century defined by hyperconsumption towards the 21st century defined by collaborative consumption. I genuinely believe we're at an inflection point where the sharing behaviors through sites such as Flickr and Twitter that are becoming second nature online are being applied to offline areas of our everyday lives. From morning commutes, the way fashion is designed, to the way we grow food, we are consuming and collaborating once again. So, my co-author Rue Rogers and I have actually gathered thousands of examples from all around the world of collaborative consumption. And although they vary enormously in scale, maturity, and purpose, when we dived into them, we realized that they could actually be organized into 3 clear systems. The first is redistribution markets. Redistribution markets, just like Swaptree, is when you take a used or pre-owned item and move it from where it's not needed to somewhere or somewhere where it is. They're increasingly thought of as the 5th R, reduce, reuse, recycle, repair, and redistribute, because they stretch the life cycle of a product and thereby reduce waste. The second is collaborative lifestyles. This is the sharing and resources of things like money, skills, and time. I bet in a couple of years that phrases like co-working and couch surfing and time banks are going to become a part of everyday vernacular. One of my favorite examples of collaborative lifestyles is called Landshare. It's a scheme in the UK that matches Mr. Jones with some spare space in his back garden with Mrs. Smith, a would-be grower. Together they grow their own food. It's one of those ideas that's so simple yet brilliant, you wonder why it's never been done before. Now, the third system is product service systems. This is where you pay for the benefit of a product, what it does for you, without needing to own the product outright. This idea is particularly powerful for things that have high idling capacity. And that can be anything from baby goods to fashions to... How many of you have a power drill? Own a power drill, right. That power drill will be used around 12 to 13 minutes in its entire lifetime. It's kind of ridiculous, right? Because what you need is the hole, not the drill. So, why don't you rent the drill? Or even better, rent out your own drill to other people and make some money from it. These 3 systems are coming together, allowing people to share resources without sacrificing their lifestyles or their cherished personal freedoms. I'm not asking people to share nicely in the sandpit. So, I want to just give you an example of how powerful collaborative consumption can be to change behaviors. The average car costs $8,000 a year to run, yet that car sits idle for 23 hours a day. So when you consider these 2 facts, it starts to make a little less sense that we have to own one outright. So this is where car sharing companies such as Zipcar and GoGet come in. In 2009, Zipcar took 250 participants from across 13 cities, and they're all self-confessed car addicts and car-sharing rookies, and got them to surrender their keys for a month. Instead, these people had to walk, bike, take the train, or other forms of public transport. They could only use their Zipcar membership when absolutely necessary. The results of this challenge after just 1 month were staggering. It's amazing that 413 pounds were lost just from the extra exercise. But my favorite statistic is that 100 out of the 250 participants did not want their keys back. In other words, the car addicts had lost their urge to own. Now, product service systems have been around for years. Just think of libraries and laundrettes. But I think they're entering a new age because technology makes sharing frictionless and fun. There's a great quote that was written in the New York Times that said, sharing is to ownership what the iPod is to the 8-track, what solar power is to the coal mine. I believe also our generation, our relationship to satisfying what we want is far less tangible than any other previous generation. I don't want the DVD, I want the movie it carries. I don't want a clunky answering machine, I want the message it saves. I don't want a CD, I want the music it plays. In other words, I don't want stuff. I want the needs or experiences it fulfills. This is fueling a massive shift from where usage trumps possessions, or as Kevin Kelly, the editor of Wired magazine, puts it, where access is better than ownership. Now, as our possessions dematerialize into the cloud, a blurry line is appearing between what's mine, what's yours, and what's ours. I want to give you one example that shows how fast this evolution is happening. This represents an 8-year time span. We've gone from traditional car ownership to car-sharing companies, such as Zipcar and GoGet, to ride-sharing platforms that match rides, to the newest entry, which is peer-to-peer car rental, where you can actually make money out of renting that car that sits idle for 23 hours a day to your neighbor. Now, all of these systems require a degree of trust, and the cornerstone to this working is reputation. Now, in the old consumer system, our reputation didn't matter so much because our credit history was far more important than any kind of peer-to-peer review. But now with the web, we leave a trail. With every spammer we flag, with every idea we post, comment we share, we're actually signaling how well we collaborate and whether we can or can't be trusted. Let's go back to my first example, SwapTree. I can see that Rondaron has completed 553 trades with a 100% success rate. In other words, I can trust him or her. Now, mark my words, it's only a matter of time before we're going to be able to perform a Google-like search and see a cumulative picture of our reputation capital. And this reputation capital will determine our access to collaborative consumption. It's a new social currency, so to speak, that could become as powerful as our credit rating. Now, as a closing thought, I believe we're actually in a period where we're waking up from this humongous hangover of emptiness and waste. And we're taking a leap to create a more sustainable system built to serve our innate needs for community and individual identity. I believe it will be referred to as a revolution, so to speak, when society, faced with great challenges, made a seismic shift from individual getting and spending towards a rediscovery of collective good. I'm on a mission to make sharing cool. I'm on a mission to make sharing hip, because I really believe it can disrupt outdated modes of business, help us leapfrog over wasteful forms of hyperconsumption, and teach us when enough really is enough. Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's have a brief discussion and then we'll have a break, okay? Okay, what do you think about the video? So, any immediate thoughts you got watching the video?
It was pretty cool.
Thank you. So the video is not about social entrepreneurship, social enterprise, but I really think it is really relevant to the whole discussion that I try to give you about, try to think about consumption. In the next video, we will talk about consumption and production. This video is about consumption. You have some comment?
Yeah, I just want to ask the social value, but you just answered it. I want to ask the relationship between the social value and this business model.
So the speaker, actually, she's not promoting social enterprise or social entrepreneurship, right? So she does not intentionally try to link, to a specific social cause while talking about these markets. But of course, you could easily recognize, share the concern about hyperconsumption, wasteful consumption, and you could easily link up with if the social cause we want to address is say environmental protection, reduce waste, reduce wasteful consumption. There's a clear link. But I think the implication, the relevance, go beyond that simple link between tackling hyperconsumption or reduce waste. The way she think about creating new market relations, creating new markets, is something that many social entrepreneurs, many social enterprises could think about. Like in the case of, I talked about the case of Diamond Cab. Right now it is a taxi service, but you can change it as a share scheme. If we have a vehicle shared by 30 households, it is different from running a rehab bus or running a wheelchair taxi service. Okay? And if I talk, before I show you the video, I talk about the mobile phone service in the rural villages. And you can also fit that service to this scheme. I have another example here. Think about the subdivided flats in Hong Kong. It's a big issue. What is a subdivided flats?
Lot that's been split up again to accommodate more people.
Yes, if you're a Hong Kong local, you know about this. This is a kind of housing for the poor people in Hong Kong. Okay, so in some old buildings, the flat owner would subdivide the flat into small units and rent it in very, very high cost to the poor people, and they are in very, very bad conditions. Very, very bad conditions. It is a bad thing. It's not a good thing. Okay. But can we use the model of collaborative consumption to provide another kind of shared housing for the poor people and change the scenario altogether? If you manage to launch such a social enterprise, you will be a hero in Hong Kong. You eradicate the current, the very bad condition subdivided housing, and use a new model. Actually, I know people that are working on such a project in Hong Kong right now. So it is one case that they help you to think about how to come up with new ideas in developing new markets for serving the needies. So the reason I picked this video, I think you as youngster would be very easy to get connected with all those technologies, internet developments, right? And then I think you are all familiar or all have great experience sharing on the internet. Okay, I just find the whole development actually would impact social entrepreneurship, impact the way we think about market. And so when you try to think about your business plan, maybe you can think about these different models and incorporate them into your business plan. Remember, I talked about your social venture. You need to think about a model for production and a model for consumption. And the video tells you some new kind of thinking that we could build some new market for serving the needies. Any other questions? Any other ideas you get from the video? Yeah.
Recently, I just learned about actually social enterprise sector in Hong Kong is doing the same thing. They create a thing called the Blue Lab. It's a collaborative working place located in Shanghai to cater for just startup collaborating with each other, they can lower production costs a lot.
So your question?
Just like some thoughts after the videos.
So this gentleman talked about the good lab. It is a place that many social entrepreneurs or change makers will come together and to exchange ideas. So it is a case of shared space. But I would say this is not a case of really serving the end users. Okay, we talk about the case of good lab. In other countries, we have the hub. In UK, in Israel, they have the hub. And it is a place that we promote to try to support the development of the social entrepreneurship sector. And it is in relation to support the development of the ecosystem. But yeah, that's an example of sharing space. I'll show you the next video. I think it is a very interesting video because when I talk about the different perspectives in thinking about production and consumption and thinking about the market, I talk about the BOP market, the bottom of the pyramid, is the most challenging market. We want to activate the shunt market to help the poor. Okay? In the earlier video, it seems like it is quite middle class. It's sharing car, sharing your stuff. Are they really applicable, for social enterprise that very often is trying to serve the poor people? So this video is talking about a case in the rural villages in the developing countries. And they're really thinking about using the market, using consumption as a way to help the poor. And so there's a big discussion in the management school and also in the social entrepreneurship field, the development field, about could we really activate the BOP market to help the poor? So there's a very famous management professor called C.K. Pahala, and he proposed the BOP proposition, saying actually we should think about selling to the poor. And it triggered a whole debate, because selling to the poor may be a bad thing. You sell alcohol, cigarettes, try to make a profit from the poor. That's really a bad thing, right? But they make some argument. They're quite convincing. Like right now, for the poor people, actually they pay more to get their stuff. They need to pay what they call poverty premium. For drinking water in a city, or water for normal use, it's much cheaper to get water here than you can get water from the poor village. Actually, they might need, they won't pay for water. In fact, in many cases, they just got water from the contaminated sources. And in some other cases, if you borrow money, you pay a much higher interest if you are the poor, right? So there's a case of trying to eliminate the very unjust poverty premium. If we could really activate the market in serving the poor, the BOP market, we're actually helping the poor. Then how could we resolve, the dilemma? We don't want to exploit the poor. We want to help the poor through creation of market. And this is one example. There's a social enterprise called IDE, International Development Enterprise. And their approach is to produce things that could enhance the productivity of the poor people. Earlier I talked about mobile phone. It's not for their leisure to use the mobile phone. The poor people, if they got a mobile phone, they got important information so that they could sell their produce at a higher price. And it could enhance their income. Another example would be like creation like this one. This is what they call a treadle pump, very simple pump that can help the poor, the rural farmers to get water. And in those places, normally during the dry season, the farmers won't have enough water to farm the land, so they couldn't. They just sit there and could not work the land. But with this invention, they could get underground water, and they could have more. They could also farm the land during the dry season, and they can enhance their income. So if the consumption is about enhancing the productivity of the poor people, the poor people would do a very simple calculation whether to invest in this kind of goods and services to try to make a better living. Okay, but there's a design challenge in producing equipment of this kind. You need to be, they couldn't be, of course you need to fill the basic function that address the needs of the poor people or the farmers. But at the same time, they need to be radically affordable for the poor people. So the design issue is not just about the product design, it's also about the market design. And it is also about how we could bring together production and consumption. When you sell this equipment to the poor, it is about consumption, right? But you are also thinking about how this equipment could link up with the production activity of the poor people. So in this case, we are actually thinking about both the production rim and the consumption rim. Okay, we try to sell useful stuff to the poor for enhancing their productivity. And then at the same time, actually, we create more employment for some of the poor people engaging in the market creation. So it's a win-win. It's very interesting. So I'll show you the video now. And
I feel a little bit like an 18-year-old virgin in a 77-year-old body. Many people tell me I'm a contrarian, but I take the opposite view. Three years ago, General Motors, the biggest, most powerful corporation in the world, was brought to its knees by failing to react quickly and effectively to competition from Japanese imports, which were smaller, more fuel efficient, and cheaper. I believe that companies like Walmart, Coca-Cola, and Microsoft will share the fate that awaited General Motors if they don't react quickly and effectively to learn how to operate successfully in emerging economies. But this will require nothing less than a revolution in how they currently design, price, market, and distribute their products. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to help foment that revolution. 30 million people shop at Walmart every day. But there are 3 billion people who will never set foot inside a Walmart store. There are people like this farmer who earns a living with his family of about $1 a day on his 1-acre farm. I've had long personal conversations with more than 3,000 of these customers who are not served by existing markets. And they've become, over the last 30 years, my teachers and my friends. Coca-Cola sells what amounts to an aspirationally branded fizzy sugar water for 25 cents a bottle in villages all over India. In those same villages, 50% of the children are malnourished. What would happen to Coca-Cola if a well-financed Chinese company started selling a nutritious soft drink at a nickel a pop in millions of villages around the world? They'd be in the same shape fairly quickly, I think, as GM was. The Gates Foundation has helped millions of people move out of poverty, and millions of other people have had their illnesses treated effectively as a result of the Gates Foundation. But Microsoft, the parent company, as far as I know, not a single Microsoft product sells to the 2.6 billion people in the world who live on less than $2 a day. The opportunities to create profitable businesses serving 3 billion bypassed customers are almost limitless. For example, there are 1 billion people in the world who will never connect to electricity. That's about the same as the total population of the United States and Europe combined. There are another 1 billion people who don't have access to safe drinking water. Many of them get sick, and some of them die as a result of it. Why don't existing businesses get involved successfully in emerging markets? There are 3 main reasons. First, they don't see a profit in it. Second, they don't have a clue how to design radically affordable products, which are what's needed and desirable for people who live on less than $3 a day. Products like this low-cost drip irrigation system that costs $20 for about 1/8 of an acre. Or this $25 prosthetic knee that another organization that I started, DREV, has designed and is being used, happily used by some 2,500 people right now. Or this $25 treadle pump. It's not a treadle, it's a treadle, sort of like a Stairmaster. IDE, the organization based in Colorado that I started, has sold more than 2 million of them, and there are 3 million people using treadle pumps in the world today. Affordable devices like treadle pumps and drip irrigation combined with a last mile supply chain has helped 20 million people move out of poverty as a result of IDE's work alone. Finally, existing corporations don't know how to run profitable last mile supply chains. Maybe it really should be the last 500 feet. Many poor people live in small villages, and getting goods in and out of those villages has proved very difficult. I believe there are 3 keys to profitable businesses serving the poor. The first is simply big volume, low margin. It's the Walmart principle times 3, or times 300, or times 1,000. The second is designed for radical affordability. There's a whole movement that is gaining a lot of momentum, learning to design things that are affordable enough for people who live on less than $3 a day, and that also are income generating. And finally, implement profitable last mile supply chains. I'm going to be talking a little bit later on about the Spring Health model, which is an example of that. To demonstrate that this is feasible and practical, I've started in the last 3 years a private company, Windhorse International, and a related company operating in India called Spring Health. The mission of that company is to sell safe drinking water at scale to people who don't have access to it now. This is a picture I took as part of a video in the state of Orissa in eastern India recently. This gentleman is taking a ritual bath in the village's main cooking water source. There are some 300 million people in eastern India alone who don't have access to safe drinking water. Most of them live in small villages with 100 to 300 families, and those villages have little in the way of markets. But they do have, every one of these small villages has 3 or more mom and pop shops like this one. They sell everything from cigarettes to soap to candy to cookies and all kinds of consumable household items. What Spring Health has done is build a 3,000-liter cement tank for about $100 beside each shop. and then purify the water in it using a radically affordable water purifier manufactured by Spring Health. The shopkeeper then sells that water at a cost of less than half a cent a liter to people in the village, and they're experiencing a major drop in illnesses and expenses to pay for the medicines and treatments that they receive for those illnesses. The mission of Spring Health is to provide safe drinking water to 5 million people within 3 years through 10,000 village shops, and within 10 years to provide safe drinking water to more than 100 million people through shops in 400,000 villages around the world. I want to show you a little bit what this looks like in a 2-minute video that I took recently of this work.
The opening of a water shop is an important ceremony in the life of the village. More and more customers in rural Orissa are buying safe water from their local small shop for 4 cents a day. They're buying it from small village shopkeepers. Windhorse and Spring Health India partner with the shopkeepers and install a 3,000-liter cement tank next to the shop, which the shopkeeper fills with water from his shallow open well, which is usually contaminated with fecal pathogens. A company staff member purifies the water in the tank by adding chlorine and other water purifiers. A central part of the Spring Health rollout strategy is creating a strong, dependable brand identity in small, remote rural villages. A bicycle home delivery service carries jerry cans filled with safe drinking water to customers' homes up to 3 kilometers from the kiosk at a cost of 8 cents for 10 liters compared with 4 cents at the kiosk. The people in rural villages in Orissa report a rapid drop in diarrhea, and they are very happy with the result. Over the next 3 years, we will partner with 10,000 village shops and sell safe drinking water to 5 million people. Over 10 years, that number will increase to 400,000 shops in 20 countries. And with new access to safe drinking water, 200 million rural people will lead more prosperous and healthy lives. Thank you.
So as you can probably tell, I think that there are thousands of opportunities for creating new markets and creating new companies serving the 3 billion customers in the world who are bypassed by current markets. And I believe that, as I've said before, it will take nothing less than a revolution in current business practice, a revolution in how products are designed, priced, marketed, and delivered. But that revolution will create millions of new jobs. It will help more than 1 billion people move out of poverty, and it will take a giant step towards ending environmental imbalance on the planet. You've been a very attentive audience, and I must say that now I feel more like a 77-year-old virgin in an 18-year-old body. Thank you very much.
Okay, what do you think? Which video is more inspiring? But they're both talking about transforming the market or creating new markets. Okay, so it echoed my earlier discussion. I talked to you for the social enterprises we see now. Some of them work in the existing market. Some modify their activities a little bit and try to explore or try to find a new space in the existing market. But actually, for the more ambitious social entrepreneur, they try to activate the shunt market, the BOP market. And if you are really inspirational, you might be able to create a new market and change the pattern of consumption and production. The second video, do you think it is relevant to a place like Hong Kong? Or it's just something happening in developing countries? Do we have a BOP market in Hong Kong?
I think so.
We talk about housing, right? Those subdivided units, they're really, if you talk about the average rental, they're even higher than mid-level, right? So those poor people is actually paying a lot for their existing services. They're not well served by the existing market, the existing companies. But what is the challenge? What are the challenges? In the video, the gentleman, Paul Pollack, he talks about we need a design revolution. This gentleman, he is the founder of the social enterprise, IDE, and he's now retired. But he immediately set up a new organization. It's called Design for the 90%. He is saying right now, all the designers, all the top designers, they design things for the top 10%. They design the new cars, design all those luxurious furniture, anything you can think of. But they design just for the top 10% or even the 1%. So this gentleman is saying, actually, there's a lot of things we need to do. We want to revolutionize the whole design industry. And he went to Stanford, and in the design school, he pushed forward a movement that he calls the design for the 90%. That we want more designers to think about what kind of things we could provide for the poor people. So this year's theme of Hong Kong SEC is about technology and social entrepreneurship. When we think about technology, it could be things like the internet. You know, in the first video, there are lots of things that could promote sharing. But it could be very simple technology, like the treadle pump, like the drip irrigation. But the design challenge is not about technology per se. It's about how you could create a market that could serve a particular group, particular clientele. Okay, so by combining the two videos, I want to show you the case that we really need to think about how to use technology, but technology or even design. But this is not about how you can get the most, cutting edge technology or things like that. It's about to find the appropriate technology and then to design to make it radically affordable for the poor people or for certain client groups you want to support. It could be the middle class. It could be the bottom of the pyramid. And I want to round up the discussion, and then maybe if you like, we can have a Q&A or a small group discussion. I try to I opened the workshop by talking about what are the social needs, where are the social needs. I argue that you as a change maker, you as a social entrepreneur, you should try to think about what are the things that really concern you and you want to change. Okay, you need to recognize the social transformation. We have the aging problem, we have the environmental problem. Okay, and all along I talk about we want to combine the resources that we have. You know, what are the existing resources we have in the community? We go to Tibet and we see the yak, but what happened in Hong Kong? You go to Tin Shui Wai, you go to Sam Shui Po, or you go to your local community. What are the hidden assets? What are the community assets? In the first video, when they talk about the sharing platform, just in our own home, we have lots of stuff just put there, idle, not using it. There are resources that could be utilized for serving certain purposes. And then you walk around the community, you might be able to find more hidden resources or hidden assets. Or you are currently an NGO, a charity serving certain clients. The clients are the hidden assets. So you can use a supply-driven strategy to try to activate those resources, provide a service, okay? Then you need to match, you know, the production process with the market opportunities. And then it comes to our whole discussion about different types of markets, about can we activate new markets? Can we activate the shunt market? Or can we change, you know, change the ownership paradigm and use a sharing paradigm to create new kinds of markets? Then you need to apply the social innovations. We have pumps all along, and we have drip irrigation system all along. But that gentleman from IDE, he developed very simple drip irrigation system, very simple treadle pump system for the poor people. They're really, really sophisticated system, drip irrigation system. There are the great growers, the wine country in France. They use satellite to send signal to the drip irrigation system, and then they alternate the water supply for their farms. So very high-tech drip irrigation. Because there's a market, there are firms investing to develop those high-priced drip irrigation system to those commercial buyers. But for the poor farmers, we need to use a different mindset to develop the technology to serve their specific needs. So then you as the social entrepreneur, you are the one to try to achieve the creative destruction. You want to find all these pieces, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You put together all the resources, you put together the market, and make it a viable business model. And that is your business plan. Okay, and that's your business plan. So you talk about the production process, you talk about the consumption process, and how the two could combine together to really address your social needs. Okay, you go back to the simple 2x2 matrix I talked about. Okay, how would you combine production, consumption with economic creation, and economic value creation and the creation of social value? Okay. So can we spend like 10 minutes in small group? You try to think about what social issues you want to address. You can pick one or pick two. Okay, use a piece of paper, and then try to think through these things. Try to think through these things. And then I will walk around and talk to you. And then maybe we come back and have a final Q&A session after that. Sound good? It's okay for Hong Kong social enterprise to do good in the mainland. But you just for this exercise, you just pick one issue. So you want to reduce solid waste.
I browse online, check it out.
Hi guys, my name is Club and my friend is Queenie. It's just a coincidence. We were just talking about ethnic minorities, and the idea is very simple because actually nowadays there are a lot of ethnic minorities in Hong Kong facing various different type of difficulties in terms of language, or whether when you go and have some access for the resources that is available for the whole public, they can't have it. And we were just talking about with Mr. Young, and then we just started. So it's like, well, maybe how about ethnic minorities are so good at cooking ethnic minorities food, and use demand in a local market, maybe they can group it together and have some collaboration so that they can have their own restaurant which can be sourced for the local market. So that was the basic idea.
Yeah, the ethnic minority, the traditional way for them to do is they might run a small restaurant. That's the old model, right? But can we make reference to the first video and change the model? Can we gather, say, several cooks and then form a social enterprise? And then in the consumption side, people like me would like curry, but I won't take curry every meal. I might take curry once a month. Then if we could gather people like me, and then we could create a collaborative market. And if we have such kind of collaborative market, then we can use the service of the social enterprise. And the social enterprise need not operate a shop or their own restaurant. Running a restaurant in Hong Kong is very expensive, rental, everything. So it's just we have a little chat, and then we have brainstorming, and this is the way we could follow this model. The target is the ethnic minority. Then we ask ourselves, what are the hidden assets? For the minority, for the women, some NGOs would do handicraft, ask women to do handicraft, and they sell to the market. So it's basically the same, but it's not very innovative. But in the idea of a social enterprise for some cook, that they could really do excellent curry meal, then we could come with a new market model to try to match the hidden community asset with a new market. Okay, so you can apply this to any other social issues, but the logic or the framework is pretty simple. Okay, find the hidden asset, identify the market, and then try to blend the social needs with the market opportunities. Okay, so we already overrun. So if you want to discuss, you can always still stay here. Okay, you can come over and you can continue to discuss. And thank you very much for coming to this workshop. Thank you.